Before I started on YouTube, I wondered if YouTube would be something that I could do. And I always struggled with this idea of being a YouTuber. And I saw, when I would watch other YouTube channels, I would see how well produced they were. I would see their studios with the nice lighting, and I would see, the production value that they had, and the scripts that they were talking about stuff that was, not only were they entertaining, but they were informative. And it just seemed so far off to me before I started, that it was something that, it looked like they were almost professional. It was almost like TV level production. And I always thought, there's no way that I could do this myself. I just kept putting off the idea, thinking that I don't have anything to offer that either hasn't been shared already, the information that I have doesn't, other people have said things before, or just that I didn't have anything worth sharing. So I put it off, and I put it off, and I put it off for years. But eventually, it never went away. That feeling of wanting to start a YouTube channel never went away. And so I thought about the regret that I would have if I just didn't do something, if I didn't go out there and just start something, no matter what it was. So eventually I started. It was something about YouTube that intrigued me. It was something about just the process of it, I think. I don't know if it was like my desire to create something, because I used to do photography. When my son was born, I did photography, and I enjoyed taking pictures. I got into photography. I enjoyed taking the pictures. I liked seeing the lighting and the bokeh that the lens creates, and I just enjoyed it. And plus it would just make memories for me that I could have forever, seeing my children grow up. So I think there was something about the video side of it that brought me into that too, where, I never got into video when I was doing photography. I learned that, and I did that, and I did some professionally for 10 years or so, doing real estate photography and stuff like that. But I think it was just that desire to create something and to be known to be good at something. And so YouTube was always one of those things where I wondered, is this something that I can pick up and I can start to create things and be just good at something? I wanted to get some. A lot of it was just wanting to be creative, and a lot of it was wanting to be recognized as doing some sort of creative, or being good at something. So as I started, I just went ahead and started. I didn't really have a plan. I didn't have a game plan when I started. I just figured I would figure it out as I went. I thought other people were doing this. How hard can it really be? And I think that was the wrong mentality to have about it. It took me a while to start to figure out things. There was a lot to learn. The learning curve was high for most things, and there was a lot more to it than just regular photography. There was, the shooting video is a little different. There's a little more aspect to it. The lighting and everything is different, because everything is dynamic. Everything's changing and moving. So you can't just light one little scene and once you change, or the lighting change, or the sun moves or something like that, everything's different. and the rules are a little different. You know, just trying to figure things out, trying to figure out the settings, the 180-degree shutter rule, and all this stuff that they talk about. Figuring that out, and then figuring out the editing. There was just a lot more to it than what I had originally thought. On top of that, you've got to have video ideas, and you've got to be able to write and script and be able to hold somebody's attention, which is probably the most difficult part. So a lot of this stuff I didn't know. I was just putting stuff out there and hoping that somebody would start to watch, and eventually one person would watch, and maybe I would get a handful of people would watch, and then it would kind of start to snowball from there. I figured that was just the way that YouTube worked, but I didn't realize that there's a whole another set of rules to YouTube, the title and the thumbnail and all kinds of stuff, the psychology that goes behind a lot of the stuff that I was about to embark on for this journey. So everything was just really a lot more complicated than I thought, and getting this subscriber base was going to be a lot harder. While I was on this quest to try to figure out what was going on with my YouTube and why nothing was really working, and you know, I had looked at all the rules and tried to understand all the rules that YouTube teaches and all the things that I needed to know. One day I was watching YouTube, and I had Casey Neistat came in my feed, and I never really watched Casey Neistat before. I knew he was a famous vlogger, but I never had really paid attention to any of his videos. I think I'd maybe watched one or two, but never really cared too much about it. And then one day I just decided to give it a shot to take a look at his videos. And when I did, I found out some things. I guess I saw YouTube in a different way after watching Casey Neistat. I noticed that obviously he has a personality, so that's, you know, his moat, or that's what, you know, gets him above a lot of the rest of YouTubers out there. I don't have a personality like Casey Neistat, but the other thing that I did see with Casey Neistat was he wasn't as formal as the other ones. I guess is the word that I could put in there, because I can't think of a better word, but he didn't seem as polished as the other YouTubers that I was used to seeing. He had a lot of, I mean, he had a style of his own, and when he would do things, it seemed kind of chaotic, but it made sense. It was cohesive in a story format. That's when I started to realize that there's things that people are able to do that I wasn't able to see before, as far as making their own styles. So I thought that I had to conform to the styles and the rules, all the things that other YouTubers were telling you, this is how you get views. But I saw Casey doing something that didn't make sense to that style. And I at the time, I didn't watch a lot of vlogs either. And so this was something that was kind of new to me. I was more in watching things for educational purposes and stuff like that. So this opened up my eyes in a whole new way and allowed me to see a different format and a different way to structure videos and think outside the box and be creative and artistic with what I wanted to do. And it really opened up my eyes and gave me an opportunity to see into a world that I had not looked at before. And that was not only vlogging as a format, because there's a lot of different ways. I'm still researching into vlogging, and I like that style, but more into a way of structuring your videos and becoming more creative. So when I started to look into this story aspect of YouTube and how it fits in, even with education and whatever type of content that you're doing. And I started to study that. I started to study the story that people were doing, and I saw it in all types of different formats, not just vlogs. All across the board, that story was the thing that we spoke better with, we communicated better with. And it made sense in the form of just human psychology too, because we tell stories, we watch movies, we read books, and we remember things better in a story format. So instead of just delivering information, we deliver that same information can be delivered better in a story form where it jogs our memories and helps us to understand things better and to remember things better. Once I started putting this in place into my videos, that's when I saw the change. That's when my whole channel started to get views and started to get people returning and commenting. It was the story structure. It was maybe not me sitting there telling a story, but the way that I would structure things in my videos that had more of a purpose to it. That's when I saw a real difference in my channel. So how do you implement this story structure in your videos? That's a good question. I'm glad you asked. There's a bunch of different ways depending on who you ask for story, but I've come up with a structure that works for me, and I actually have a PDF file that you could download from a description. The link's in my description for it. It's just a PDF that it kind of gives you a structure of how to formulate your own story or your own thought process. And it works for pretty much anything that you're doing. So if you are interested in that, the link is in the description. Take a look at it. Thanks for watching.